Hello guys, welcome to eMini project. This is the second part in video and mini project by the name machine learning approach to distinguish walking and running. In this part we'll be developing algorithm for distinguishing walking and running. Besides, we will also look at the data that I have collected from my walking and running accumulator. So in previous video we concluded with design of accumulator data accumulator and on how we'll stuck it to our feet. And if you have not looked at that part, I just strongly suggest you to have a look at that. And so in this part we'll be developing the algorithm, and we'll be doing some octave programming on how to develop that algorithm. We'll also look at machine learning terms like logistic regression and cost function and many more. So let's get started. Let's continue from where we left in the previous part. So this is how I stuck my assembly to my ankle, and by wearing this I ran for a while, walked for a while, and I took around 4 readings for walking and 5 readings for running. And I'll share that data set with you guys, and I suggest that if you make the assembly and collect your data, I encourage you to share that in the comment part, or so that we can develop our learning algorithm. As machine learning algorithms take if you feed them more data, then it's better for them and they'll improve on their characteristics. So I also encourage you to make this thing. Ask your friends to wear it, but if you pack this thing like what I have done, they'll resist to do that. But that will give you the variety of data for walking and reading. And as I shown in the previous part, that I took this reading at 13-bit resolution and plus or minus 8G as maximum full scale reading, and I encourage you to change that full scale reading and number of bits, and try out various readings. And the code that I showed in the previous video is simple, and I also added comments to that you can modify, and I will make that code available, so I encourage you to try that out also. Now let's look at the data that I have collected. Okay, to visualize the data, I will need one octave script. So I will walk you through this script, and I will also make it available so that you can play around with it. So the I just named it as visualize. So let's look at that file, and I'll just open it for you. Gedit to visualize, right? Okay, so here is the file. And if you look at the first statement, just clearing up all the thing on terminal, then it prints like reading data, and in this statement it picks up the data from this text file by the name of running 1.txt in this folder. So running, this is the folder. So let's look at so I can effectively explain this load part. Let's look at the syntax in which this running data is stored. So I'll just open it for you guys. Here is the running data, and this is the file we are reading. So first line is so the syntax is like it is this is the x-axis reading of our ADXL 345 accelerometer, followed by is y-axis reading, and then there is z-axis reading, and finally this is timestamp in millisecond. And this is what will determine the sampling frequency of our Arduino. So finally is that x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis data are separated by comma, and there is finally a timestamp. So this load statement, what it does is it will take those readings and separate out them into 4 columns, and each column takes the data before the comma. So x-axis data will come up in the first column, y-axis data will come up in the second column. z-axis data will come in third column, and finally a timestamp will come in the fourth column. And okay, so if let's look at the data variable first. Then to do that, I will just run an Octave. So you run Octave by just typing Octave on your terminal. Of course, you have to get it installed first. Now if I run this visualize script, okay, so it shows us figure, but don't worry about it. Let's look at first the data variable. So here is the data. So if you can see, this is the first column, this is second column, third column, and this is finally the fourth column. And this huge file with some data. So again, let's get back to the file. And okay, where is the file? Let me see. Open it. So that was the loading part, and this is the frequency thing that I'll explain to you later. This statement is what is of our interest right now. So X is getting loaded with the first column. This is a statement how you write in Octave to load the first column of some matrix into this other variable. Similarly, here it is loading a Y, and here it is loading a Z. And in between I'm computing FFT, that I will just explain it to you shortly. And here is the plotting part. So let's plot this running data and take a look at it. So why are we visualizing this data? The reason behind visualization is to get some characteristic feature. And what are these characteristic features? So characteristic feature is something that will distinguish walking from running. So let's look at this running data and one more sample of walking data, and think of something. So for that, let's visualize the data first. So again, I will do Octave, and okay, Octave, and again visualize script, visualize. So this is our running data, and as you can see, there is some periodicity among this x-axis data. And let me just, so x-axis was the axis that was pointing towards the ground in my case, that I mean the thing that I was wearing. And if you can see, let me zoom it a bit more, there is some kind of periodicity in this signal. And so we'll find out, so I mean it's periodic, so there has to be some frequency. And it has also got a bit of I'm zooming it out, and if you can see, there are some spikes and peak values. So just keep these two things in mind. And now let's visualize one walking data. So this was our running data, right? Now let's look at one walking data. So I will just open one walking file, walking, and this is just the naming convention that I have followed, so you can follow whatever you like. And okay, so that's how it will read the walking file. Again, we'll move to Octave and visualize the data. Okay, so now if you can see here, this is our x-axis, and if you see, there are no spikes of that, I mean there's no much spike here, and it has also got some kind of periodicity, but the frequency seems to be lower. So by visualizing the data, you should come up with some feature vectors, and by looking at this data, I came up with the feature vector of frequency, dominant frequency, and as I mean this is not a sine wave, so it will have many sine waves involved here. So one of them will be dominating, so we'll look at the dominating frequency, and peak as our feature vector. So that thing will help us in characterizing the data. So let's visualize a few more data here. And so if we can look at and get a bit of more generalization, so let's look at another file with the walking name by walking 2. So if you can look at that, I'll do one thing, Octave again, visualize. Okay, so here also you see I mean peaks are not of the values of thousands or 2000 as is the case with the running. Here you can see peaks are smaller and this is the longer data, but the frequency is considerably lower. Okay, so let's again look at one more running data. I'm moving back and forth here, but let's finally look at one running data. Running 2, let's go this time. Last time we looked at running 1, right? So this time we'll go at running 2. Okay, Octave and visualize. And here again you see the peaks are much higher at 2000 readings, and frequency is there. So these are going to be our feature vectors, dominant frequency and peak values. And next, now we'll look at how we'll extract this dominant frequency and peak values. So here is the same visualized code, and we have covered it here, right? Covered up to here, like what load function we do. Next thing is I'm declaring a variable called f, as this is a sampling frequency, and I have kept it to 1/14 millisecond, and this is the time interval that I noted in my accelerometer data file that we had looked at previously. So that will so these are the samples in the file, and if you look at the timestamps, you will get the interval at which you are storing the data. So that will come up here, and for me it came up as 14 millisecond. Next thing what I am declaring is that I am computing 1000 point FFT, and I will not go into detail about FFT, but what FFT is that it converts discrete time signal into its frequency domain. So I encourage you to look up at the Wikipedia for this FFT algorithm, and in short what it will do is just convert from time domain to frequency domain. So it says like what all frequencies are contained inside this signal, and the one with the highest component will act as a dominant frequency that I will show you shortly. And here I am computing FFT of x-axis data, and so yeah, this statement is computed, and I'm separating the mean of that waveform. This is just to get rid of the frequency at 0 hertz. I mean at 0 hertz so it's a FFT will compute a kind of spectrum. So in the spectrum at 0 hertz, all the DC components will show up, and if the waveform has got considerable DC shift, like the accelerometer reading is not at 0, it can be at let's say minus 50, and the signal is oscillating around minus 50. So that minus 50 will act as the DC, and it will show up at the 0 hertz, and that will act as the dominant part if its magnitude is quite high. So to remove that part, I just subtracted this mean part, so that every waveform is shifted to level 0. I hope I am making it clear. If you have any doubt, you can put it in the comment section. So this is for what I am doing this mean subtraction. Then similar is the case for y and z, and this was the part for plotting that I have already mentioned. And let me just uncomment this part where I just plot the x FFT, and this is the code for computing FFT. I encourage you to go through this code and run it on your PC and look at what it is doing. And this max part will compute the dominant frequency. Now similar this part of the code is for y and z, but that's not of our interest right now, so let's just look at the x-axis. And I repeat again, this part will compute FFT and plot the spectrum of our x-axis data that I have showed you already. And finally, this thing will print the dominant frequency. And as I said, so I mean, what is the dominant frequency? I'll just show you in a second. So let's run this code again. Just run this Octave, and I'll run the visualize. Okay, so this is the FFT plot for our data. And okay, let's look at one more data here. I'll open up more data. Let's go to Octave. Let's set it to running 1. Close it. Octave. Visualize. So this is the FFT or power spectrum of the running data that we have. Let me just zoom it up. So on the y-axis is what is called amplitude or power of power contained in the signal in that frequency part. Then the x-axis is our frequency. So if you can see here at frequency around 6 Hertz, we have a peak, and that and the frequency with the highest amplitude is called the dominant frequency, and that is what I have computed in later part of the code. And this is again visualizing the same thing. I don't need to go through now, and I'm printing it here. So dominant frequency was around 6, and if you look at the code, and if you look at the code, then finally here it says this dominant frequency we can compute by looking at the peak of our the maximum value of our spectrum. And here what we are doing is we are finding peaks. So I'm taking average of peaks. It's not a normal average, it's just take each peak and take its average. So for running, it is much higher than walking. That's what I noted from visualizing data. So that this is the importance of visualizing the data. So by visualizing, you come up with some characteristic which can distinguish these two things. So what I noted was, when I was walking, these values, peaks were smaller compared to running. So this is the second feature that I'll be taking. And so this, I ran this code on each and every file, and I came up with two things. That is, for each data, I came up with dominant frequency and average peak. So let me just show you one more time. Let's look at running 3 file which we have. So I do that. I do this for running 3. Here is it prints like the dominant frequency is around 5.85, and let's just verify it with our power spectrum. So it is around 5.85. Yeah, it is around 5.85. Some peak is there, so that's our dominant frequency, and peak average is of 2000. So these two values, I will just copy this thing and put it into one file. So I did this for everything, and I'll show you the file that I just named it as sample file.txt. So this acts as our kind of data set. So, and the structure of this file goes something like this. First thing before comma is our dominant frequency, after that is our average peak, and finally I have put a 0. So what does this 0 stand for? This 0 stands for this indicates our machine learning, not as machine. This will tell the Octave code which will develop our learning algorithm whether this data belongs to running or walking. So here 0 stands for running. So first 5 data set is for running, and next 4 data set is for walking. So for walking I have this last bit as 1, and rest are data. So here again this is our dominant frequency, and this is our peak values. And you can see, like, for running, peak are smaller than average peak are smaller than running data, and average frequency, dominant frequency, is also lower than running. And this seems to be a valid data, as well when we'll be running, we'll run at much our steps will take much faster pace and much faster rate, so we'll have higher frequencies. But there is one outlier here. So this is the data where the frequency seems to be of the range of walking, and but actually it was the running data set. I think this might have appeared because probably I was running a bit slowly, or I probably have started walking amidst running or something like that. But don't worry about it, we'll take care, and I will also mention that part in where we'll develop the algorithm. Okay, so now comes the main part. In this part we'll be using the linear regression to develop the algorithm. And one thing, like, linear regression is in itself a big topic, and I don't consider myself an expert of it. So for linear regression I will try to explain it into a much of layman kind of word, and in the detailed part of it, I will link I'll mention a link of video by Andrew Ng, who is a Stanford professor on this, an expert in this matter, in the description part, and you can have a look at that and get into detail of linear regression. But let me tell you what it will do in our case. So let me give you an example. So let's take an example of like, you have bunch of paired numbers. So let's say there are numbers in this kind of format, like 1, 2, then you have few more numbers like 3, 7, or 7, and many more, something like this, dot dot dot, and some numbers. Okay, so you want to, let's say, separate them into 2 groups, like one will contain pair that has number of numbers whose sum is less than 5, something like that, and other group is the rest of the numbers. So a simple line with probably the equation of x plus y less than 5 will do our job. So if this equation is satisfied, it gets into one domain. If this equation is not satisfied, it gets into the other domain. So this is what this is what our logistic regression method will do. It will try to draw a line between these two, our groups of walking and running. And so here x and y are our characteristics of this example. So in our case, x and y will be dominant frequency and average absolute peak values that we looked at just before some time. So yeah, as I mentioned, I'll put a link to Andrew's lecture in description part. And now let's look at all files that we'll need to get this logistic regression running. So here is the list of bunch of files that we'll need. Of course, there will be data. So I'll share this data with you, and here is the running data files. Those 5 data files are here. Then there is walking data files here, and this I will share it with you. And here are the bunch of functions that we'll need to get this thing running. So visualized is the think that we have already looked at it. Then this is the sample file which contains simply this data. This also I have already explained to you. Then so now let's look at, this is our main file, ml_algo. So what this file will do, let's look at this content of this file. I repeat it again, this is our main file. You have to execute this file and it will do everything for you. So let's look at this file. Just again clearing up stuff, loading data, ml_data. Okay, so I mean this ml_data is nothing but the same thing as in sample or file, just named it as different names. It's a copy of the same thing, so don't worry about that. Okay, so where are we? Yeah. And it then okay, it should be better to open that ml_data. So similar to the what we did in case of XYZ axis data, this will take this first and second column and put it into X. It will take the last third into put it into Y. And this part, what does it? It will kind of draw plot that I'll just show you that plot. So let's go through that plot. So again Octave, and I told you the file is ml_algo. Okay, here we go. I want to get the second plot first. Let's look at, so this is the kind of plot that this part of code will do. I encourage you to go to this plot function. Just look at the help. For looking for help in Octave, you just have to type like help Octave, not Octave, help plot. It will give you a bunch of things, and I encourage you to go through this help and look at this code. So this part of the code will generate this figure number 1. So you can see here is the 4 walking samples. Here are 4 running samples, and this is the one that is outlier, and it is falling in this corner. So the upper part of the code will generate this figure. Now we are back. So this is just labeling up stuff. Then here this statement will print the size of X and load it into M and N. So this size function will return the number of rows and number of columns, and number of rows will get stored in M and number of columns will get stored in N. And here I am appending one row of ones, not row, it's a kind of column in front of X. So after execution of this statement, if I look at the X, it will be kind of bunch of ones, then followed by some I mean the first column will be ones. I'll show you actually how the X will do instead of telling. So let's get into Octave and run that part first. Let me minimize it. Let's display X. So this is so first column will be 1, then here is our dominant frequency reading, and this is our peak amplitudes. This is how X will look because of this statement. Then we are putting some initial thetas. I mean, before going through this code, I encourage you to go through N2Ng's tutorial of logistic regression. So then it will be really helpful. The next part, we are using this cost function. This cost function is actually a file. Let me open it for you. Cost function here, and I have coded it up a bit. So I am not going to explain this part because it is a bit complex. You just look into that logistic regression by N2Ng, and you will get know about this part. So about what does cost function does is just it calculates kind of error between our estimation and point data. So it's kind of computes the cost. So cost is kind of error. That's what this function will do. And we are also printing it here. Then this optimum set, and this f mean unc, this is the function that will optimize, or this is the function that will compute that optimum line, which will divide this two data set into two parts. And then so kind of this is the brain, you can say, of this code. And finally we just plot the decision boundary that I will show you. I mean the kind of boundary that will segregate these two parts. So let's look that thing in running. So if I execute, let's say MLAlgo again, it will show up. So this is the line that gets plotted because of, and this is how it has segregated these two parts. So the point above this line are running data, and point below these are walking data. And depending on how much data you have, it will give a proper line which will segregate these two parts. So and if you have more data, you will get a much generalized line or algorithm which will distinguish this part. So actually this is kind of the goal that we are seeking after for such a long time, considerable long time. And this is the algorithm. So this is the line that says whether it is running or walking. So let's test on one random data. So to check whether our algo is working or not. So theta is the there's no theta. How come there's no theta? Let's run that MLAlgo again, and okay, so here comes theta. So this theta is the variable which represents that line where theta 0. So this 17 is our theta 0. So the kind of the equation of that line is something like that. So this 17 point, the line that separates these two parts is something like 8469 plus 11.8612 x1 minus 0.0613 x2, and x1 is our dominant frequency, and x2 is our peaks. So now let's check for some new data. So this is, I mean, right now we trained our algorithm on training data. Now let's see how it performs on some kind of test data. So if I for testing, what we will do is we'll give our data to a function that is a sigmoid function, and if you don't know what it is, just look at that N20's video. And what sigmoid function will do is it will predict in probability, and it will give the probability of that particular data set belonging to walking data set. So if I write something like this, sigmoid bracket and 1 space. Now we'll put the frequency. So let's say I put 2.33, then I put the peak value. So let's say 345, and if I multiply it with theta function, it will give me 1. So 1, it gives 1. So this is, I mean, it's confirm that this part will belong to walking. Now if I change it to let's say 3 point something, then again it's 1. So this part also belong to I mean, so if you get this dominant frequency and this amplitude, it belongs to walking. So this is a walking data set. So now that we have, I mean, we have already trained our thing. If we are varying our variable, and if this thing is running on it, it will identify this kind of data as running data. Sorry, it will act as a walking data. And now let's see, we'll give it something like 6 and 2000. It will give us answer as 2.2541 into 10 to the power minus 15. It's close to 0. So this is not a walking data set. So if that variable is capable enough to do FFT and find out these peaks, then we'll get this probability of this data set belonging to walking is 0. So it's not walking. And here we have running. So this is, kind of walking running data set. So this is how finally all this machine learning thing works with all those data set visualization and all. And I hope you have enjoyed or learned something from this small mini project. And I will make everything available to you guys. Just look for the link in the description part. And if you like this video, please subscribe to this channel, give it a like, share this video, and thank you for watching.